Hi, my name's Rob Scott from UC Today, bringing you the latest news and conversation from the unified communications and collaboration industry. So today's talk is centered on video and why it's such a critical component in building the new world of work. And to help explore this topic, I'm joined by RingCentral, St. Bartholomew's C of E Primary School, and MacIntyre Hudson Accountants. So welcome, everybody.
Hi, Rob. Nice to meet you.
Hey, thanks for joining me. A good place to start before we get stuck in. How about we do a quick round of introductions? Sunny is today's sponsor. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dhami. I look after marketing and product marketing for RingCentral, and we are one of the leading providers of unified communications as a service.
Great. Thanks, Sunny. And Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Johns. I'm the head teacher at St. Bartholomew's Primary School in West Horton. We are a one-form entry, which means we have a class for each year group and there's 30 children in each class.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us, Mark. And Andrew.
Hello, I'm Andrew Carter. I'm the IT business manager for MHA MacIntyre Hudson. Basically, I look after technology and innovation within our business.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. And Andrew, while we're here, I might as well start with you, if possible, just to really kind of tell us about your year so far in terms of, COVID-19, the pandemic, and how video has come into your organization.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, it's been a crazy one. I think, nobody could have anticipated the impact it's potentially had on businesses, our clients, and generally the whole industry, and every industry, to be honest. From our perspective, we'd spent the last year or so almost bracing for the ability to work flexibly and work in an agile environment. So we were kind of already in a good position, thankfully. We adopted RingCentral last year. It was in early sort of June. We'd signed the negotiation, began the rollout in June. I think what we never foresee in the early days was to, actually embracing the video as well as we have. To be honest, the change adoption for that from our business was very slow at the beginning because they'd been used to doing stuff the old-fashioned way, having conference calls and using technology that way. What kind of helped, and it sounds really morbid to say, is that the pandemic kind of forced them to embrace the technology. So from our perspective, from a change, it only had a positive one on actually using, the technology stack we had available to ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So many have say they kind of feel like they've been catapulted into the kind of future work. So it's almost kind of just accelerated your roadmap.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting. And Mark, from your perspective, very different type of organisation. Tell us, what your journey's been like so far this year.
Yeah, obviously a very different organisation. We are a school and our normal business is face-to-face. We have our children come in the morning, we have them go home at the end of the day. So with lockdown, we had some slightly different issues to deal with. We jumped into the RingCentral side of things after our first week of lockdown, really. And it was through a Twitter quiz that we were planning to do with our families. We tried it on the live feed on Twitter, which didn't really work with our families, so we had a look at something else. And we found out about RingCentral offering a free trial, which worked really well for us. And we then really adopted it. And it's been a massive, steep learning curve for us, our staff, and our children as well, and families. But I think it's really helped massively from that side of things. We've done a range of different things using RingCentral throughout the lockdown. And it just, really helps us to keep connected with our children and families.
So I'm interested here, Mark, was that even on the roadmap at all to consider video within the school?
It wasn't, not on the roadmap anywhere near, to be honest, until the lockdown was sort of announced, and then as I say, it really kicked off, and we had to get something in place quickly, or we wanted to get something in place quickly, and RingCentral was the one for us to work quite nicely at that point in time. It was really important that we kept our contact with the children. We wanted to make sure they were safe, happy, and the mental health and well-being of our children was really important.
Thanks, Mark. And Sunny, what's it been like from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think it's been interesting from our perspective on two different fronts. So, firstly, from us as a business and operationally, all of our team have obviously moved to being remote as soon as lockdown was announced, and we've really amplified our use of video. We already used all of our tools, and video was a key component of that. So being remote and sort of being very, very busy, leveraging video was a great tool for us, and it helped us keep connected and make sure we were sort of communicating regularly. I think Mark's point of making sure the sort of well-being and stuff of all of our employees is also important. So our sort of HR team has done a great job in sorting out regular quizzes, and I think after the first few months, everybody got over quizzed and knew a load of general knowledge that they never knew before. And then we've gone on to cookery classes. We're doing socials on a Friday evening. So there's been a whole host of things that our HR team have done internally. Externally, in terms of working with our customers, we've seen a huge spike in usage of message, video, and phone. So all three sort of core components of our platform have seen double and triple digit spikes, and video probably the strongest. I think when you're not having face to face interactions, video has really been a bit of a savior in these times to help us get a bit of that sort of face to face contact, but also make sure we can continue to collaborate and work together in the ways in which we previously would have done. So yeah, it's been interesting working with businesses like Marks and Andrews, and also many others who have either been long-standing customers of RingCentral or have really come to us in these unfortunate circumstances, but leveraged new ways of working and tried to use our tools to continue being operational and support their employees.
Indeed, I'm very thankful that these services even exist. Could you imagine just doing this in a voice-only world? It's a very different place right now, wouldn't it? Andrew, keen to hear a little bit more about your business. You're a large accountancy firm. A lot of staff. I imagine you've sent a lot of people home to work this year. What's that been like for you? What kind of challenges were you up against? How did you overcome them?
Yeah, so I think you can imagine, obviously, my role being IT within our organisation. I'm not going to lie, the first couple of weeks were very challenging because we'd gone from, having an agile working environment where certain individuals could work from home one day a week. Those individuals were pretty much set up. They knew the ways of working remotely. Their adaptation to it was very seamless. It was the others, so it's more of the hands-on admin staff that are there day to day doing administrational tasks like filing, taking calls from reception, and generally being secretaries or PAs. They probably had the hardest transition for us. However, like I mentioned earlier, I think one of the main positives that come out of it, their change for them, particularly around the phone system, was very difficult for them to take because they're always used to what they previously had. But the good response that we generally got from individuals were they started to then embrace the technology and particularly the video side. So, we like Sonny mentioned, we had a massive uptake. I think ours was something like 300 or 400% in our video usage in the early COVID times. And I think both Mark and Sonny have sort of mentioned it earlier that, again, HR were being quite creative. We as a team were being quite creative in doing different things with the video. So again, quizzes. I personally hosted quizzes for my family as well outside of work because it was, again, I don't think anybody underestimated the mental strain on this pandemic has had on not just businesses but individuals. But yeah, the early days were really challenging, more so because it was people getting used to working this way. I think the beauty of it is that people could still connect. So they still had the ability to just pick up the phone. They could video call direct from their mobile as well. So it kind of gave them that flexibility to work in a different way they've not seen before. So, yeah, it was challenging, but from our perspective, there's definitely a massive plus that's come out of it, because if you just look at the reduction alone on traveling, expenses as well, albeit it was forced upon us, going forward as a business, that's something we're gonna take on and grow internally and externally as well with our clients.
Fantastic. And Andrew, from the kind of organization's perspective now, I mean, video is pretty much baked into the organization. How's the adoption now? Is it kind of, is everyone using it, or because people are starting to return to work? So how does that look now?
Yeah, so we were embracing the video technology before lockdown. So we just recently moved our London office, and we basically designed that to be the new model going forward. We did deploy RingCentral Rooms, which was one of their offerings, which gives the user a simplified version, so they don't need to worry about setting up a meeting. They can just go along as an iPad setup, and they can click and join the meeting. So the idea of it was just fit for purpose for everybody, regardless of training and levels of ability. They could just go and pick it up. Obviously, once we went into lockdown, video became more of a stable for us as a business. And certainly, like I mentioned, I think we generally had about a 300% increase on people using technology. The great thing is, I follow our Twitter pages and a lot of the PR and marketing that we do. As a business, we've not only mentioned the video technology internally, we've been advertising it externally to so our clients are aware of that. So instead of us having the face-to-face meetings with the clients, and don't get me wrong, there's such a mixture of clients, and some of them may be a little bit technology adverse, but they've kind of bought into it because they understand that they can't pop into the office, and use the technology. Now, one thing we want to do moving forward, as well as embracing it from a remote perspective, is within our business internally, is to deploy that RingCentral Rooms across more of our offices, so that what we can do is reduce travel, because we used to get a lot of inter-site travel, but I think now we're starting to see the reduction in those areas. And marketing themselves are particularly looking at the webinar functions as well. So we used to host a lot of internal seminars, and it was on various topics like tax. As you can imagine, in these COVID times, there's a lot of other questions about furlough. We've had to be advisory to our clients on how that process works and what entitlements they've got from the government, and we've been able to deliver that quite seamlessly. So instead of having people come into an office to sit there and us talk to them, we've been able to have interactive webinars with our users and clients and our staff as well, from a training perspective, to kind of broaden their horizons a bit.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really does have an positive impact on certain parts of the kind of work style and workplace, doesn't it? From your perspective, Mark, quite different. Pupils, teachers, what's that been like for you, managing the kind of transition to remote working and using video?
Yeah, very interesting, shall we say. Obviously, sending 210 children home back in March wasn't great fun at all. And we had to get plans up in place very quickly from the announcement that was made to lockdown. Didn't give us a lot of time. And obviously investigating the video side of things and finding RingCentral and developing that and the way it worked for us was a way forward. And some of the things that we put in place for our children. So we had virtual classrooms where they were able to come in, see the teacher, see myself on there. We'd give them different tasks to do, so treasure hunts around the house, those sorts of things. So it wasn't really focused on the learning at that point. It was just making sure that they were mentally and healthy and well from that side of things, and safe. And obviously the safeguarding things as a school point of view is really important to us, and we felt that RingCentral sort of covered all the safeguarding with the options to record the screen. And in actual fact, one of the major bonuses that we had as a school was that we had a child who was no social services, and because we were able to keep in contact with that family, the social services actually closed the case on that child, because we were able to have that video contact to make sure the child was well and the family were doing well as well, which is absolutely fab from that side of things. As I mentioned before, we had our sort of quizzes. We had a Friday quiz, which was put out to all of our parents. So we emailed them the link, which again was dead easy to do through RingCentral. And we were able to put that quiz on. So every Friday about 12 o'clock we had our Friday quiz, and we had over 50 families join us, which out of a school of 210 children, so probably about 140 families, we were absolutely delighted with that, and it was a way of us interacting with those children and the families as well. And the families were really clever about that. They were hooking their iPads up to the TV so they could all join in. It was just brilliant to see, and as I say, they did brilliantly on that. It was the families really adopted well to it, which is great. A range of other things. We had our staff quizzes. So again, on a Thursday night, we made use of the RingCentral breakout rooms, and we were working in our house teams that we have at our school, and that works really well as well. Other things like I was able to keep in touch with my governors, obviously when things changed. So we were coming back to school, trying to put all our risk assessments in place, making sure we were COVID safe or as secure as we could be. I was liaising with our governors using RingCentral as well, having meetings with them on a weekly basis as well, making sure that we were up to date. And then when schools reopened in June, we were having almost daily meetings with the governors, making sure everything was right, making sure that our risk assessment was going to be followed. And actually, we had to pull a very quick one just before we were due to reopen to actually delay our reopening to our children, unfortunately, because the cases were on the rise again and the R rate was going up. So lots of different ways of using it in school, not just with children, but also with our governors as well, from that side of things.
That's really good, and I'm glad you mentioned the safety and security element, because that's so important. And we've seen all sorts in the news recently around kind of things happening on video calls and video meetings, especially in education. So really good point that you made there. Sonny, from your perspective, two very different types of businesses here. What are you seeing now from your, what's happening out there? What are customers doing? Because we're now in a later phase of this pandemic. So are kind of, the tactics changing? Is the customer behavior kind of adapting to this new norm now?
Yeah, so it's a very good point. Two very, very different use cases, and these are two of many that we have as a business, and it's great to see that we've been able to support businesses and facilities like the ones we've just described. I think when lockdown first happened, there was a little bit of a reach out to have a solution so that something was in place and people could stay connected. So one of the things RingCentral did very early on, as Mark's mentioned earlier, is we offered free trials to education, charities and healthcare facilities to try and help them get through the sort of initial stages to help them stay connected and make sure we were sort of giving back into the community. And Mark's school were one of those that took advantage of that offer, and we were sort of happy to help them facilitate that sort of connection with their pupils and with their colleagues. What we've then seen is now that it's been a sustained period, and as you mentioned, some businesses have started to go back into work, and the government announcements this week have again put that into question as to whether people should be going back. And I'm sure there'll be many more sort of ups and downs as we go into the winter and the new year. So businesses are now looking at a business continuity option, and video plays a key component of that. So being able to let employees decide if they need to come in and whether it's safe for them to do. There are obviously places like schools or hospitals which people have to go into, and they're sort of still working at some capacity with people going in, and we're providing them services by them not all being in the same location at the same time, so they're still connecting via video, but it really dependent on the way businesses are reverting back. So RingCentral as a business isn't going back right now. So we are still continuing to leverage video in what we do. There are many businesses that we're working with that are going back at a 20-30% capacity, and are still leveraging video and messaging as a key component of what they're trying to do. And then there are some, as I mentioned, some institutions that are having to go back at sort of max capacity. And for those, what we've heard is rather than them all meeting up in meeting rooms as they would have done in the past, they are still staying at their desk and leveraging video so that they're not sort of moving around too much. They're not having to go into meeting rooms, clean them out, and then go back and use them again. So in order to keep people safe, even when they're in the office, messaging and video are still a core component of what they're doing. So I think moving forward, I don't see video slowing down too much. I think Andrew mentioned they saw an increase of about 300%. Many businesses have seen sort of similar numbers. I think when lockdown first happened, we were all back to back in video meetings all day long. I think that has normalized a little bit now, and people are getting the hang of when to leverage a video meeting and when to send a message, or when to send an email. So I think we've normalized that a little bit now. My diary is definitely a lot better now than it was at the start of lockdown. But for me, I think video is here to stay. I think Andrew raised some great points in terms of the reduction in travel, the reduction of cost of meetings that you'd be having. So just those two factors alone of time saved and money saved is a great use of video meetings, and a great story as to why. Myself personally, I'm saving 3 hours a day. So not having that commute has been phenomenal for me. I'm able to spend a lot more time speaking to my team and my colleagues. I feel a little bit fresher. I did promise myself with that save time I was going to do a lot more exercise. That unfortunately hasn't happened. I'm eating a lot more biscuits now than I was before, but I think that the save time is definitely a benefit that I can relate to, and I'm sure many businesses are leveraging the save costs in internal meetings and travel.
Thanks, Sally. And just to finish up then, I mean, Andrew, you mentioned that you were already on this journey. You were already moving towards kind of cloud communications, more agile way of working to help reduce costs and improve productivity ultimately. But what's the plan for video in your organization? Do you see that evolving? How do you see that playing out going forward?
Yeah, most certainly. So it's quite fresh off the press, but we're already starting to trial the new RingCentral video product, which is their new offering. To be honest, I think we're looking at the innovational side of it now. And just before we started, I was having a brief conversation with Mark about how he uses the breakout rooms. Now, today we use our RingCentral meetings in very different ways. So sometimes it's just a host of a meeting to have a conversation with a client or a user within our organization. Other times it might be to provide them remote assistance. So I think one thing that we noticed in IT was that facility to be able to hop on, take control of their device, and offer them some virtual assistance. We're particularly now looking for that where video goes next. So we know it's here to stay. We're particularly interested in the area where we do every year. We have an intake of students for apprenticeships. Normally throughout that cycle, we have an early adoption piece where normally what they would do is come into our offices. They go through a load of training as well as fun and innovative activities. Problem is we now can't do that in this new norm at present. So what we're looking at doing is something along the lines of what Mark's mentioned about having those different breakout rooms, do virtual assessment type centres, but using that video technology to harness that. The good news is, from our perspective, I think one of the main reasons why we chose this particular vendor is they're very, very forefront in looking at how to innovate that technology. So, I've already started to submit feature requests of what we'd like to see in the new video product. The good news is most of them are already on the roadmap. So, what we'd like to be able to do is take video to the next level. within our business. So, we currently today, if I'm phoning my team, I now don't just pick up the phone and use the phone platform. I actually video call. It doesn't matter what device I'm doing it from. I can actually now go from my phone to my laptop or my desktop computer or my iPad, as I think Mark mentioned earlier that parents have certainly done. But it's where do we take video next? We'd like to see more interaction on how it's delivered. And that's probably the next step in our journey, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark, from your perspective, will you be using video as much going forward when you finally come? Well, I suppose things get back to normal.
Well, it's when that's going to happen. At the minute, obviously, we're in a different normal, and we're having to sometimes send children home, which we had to do earlier on this term. One of our classes had to work from home for the period of self-isolation. And we were using video at that point, so we were having drop-ins sort of 3 times a day where children could jump onto the video and actually see the teachers in there and the teacher assistants. So there's opportunities there for us to continue with the video. Obviously, as a school, most of our work is face-to-face. So when our old normal returns, it's going to be a case of what happens next from that side of things. We'll see.
But having that flexibility, because it is uncertain, isn't it? We don't know what's around the corner. And as you say,
exactly.
Send people home and remotely school children. It's just very flexible being on this kind of platform, I imagine.
It certainly is, and having that there that you can just jump onto, and as I say, it's all set up for us. There's no problem at all from that side of things, and we can then just drop into those videos without any worries on that side of things. And staff are picking it up, no problem at all.
Great, thank you for talking to me today. And Sonny, we do hope to see lots more from RingCentral in terms of innovation with video, because your new platform is out now.
Yeah, as Andrew mentioned, we have launched our new RingCentral video proposition. There is a lot of focus on innovation with that product, so a lot of focus on analytics. We're bringing in some of the new features that would be required within the video space, so lots more to come. I think the key focus for us was bringing out a simple and secure meetings platform, and we feel we've done just that. So yeah, very excited and looking forward to the future of video with RingCentral.
Great, thanks, Sonny. And it's been really good talking to you all today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
And that's it from us. If you've enjoyed today's session, please do give us a quick like or a share on social. It's always appreciated. I'm Rob Scott from UC Today. Thanks for watching.